Good day, viewers. Welcome and thank you for joining us. You're watching Open Studio right here on Cape Town TV. My name is Danny Cambo. I've got an amazing gentleman with me, who goes by the name of Shawn. All right, he's from an organization called Live-well Dementia. All right, this is one of the big problems that we are faced with in our society and in the world. And today we're going to speak all about it and see how and what we can do to help those living with the condition to live a fulfilling life as we are. So, Shawn, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. It's good to have you here to chat to us about this issue of dementia. So before we get into conversation, just for those that's watching at home that do not know you, can you give us a little bit description about yourself, where you're from, and who you are within the organization?
Okay, so I'm based in Somerset West, Cape Town. We have two estates, one in Bryanston and one in Somerset West. And I'm the quality of life manager. So my job is to effectively ensure that all of our residents that live within our estates, but also people outside, actually have the ability to have a good quality of life. So that's why I'm the quality of life manager. I make sure that even though they are living with this disease, that they still have a good quality of life.
Oh, wow. So Shawn, how did you get involved into this? Because a job like this requires lots of patience. How did you get involved and what inspired you to do that?
Well, I think the patience came from me working in tax for many years, which is very weird going from tax to dementia. But I've had my own personal experiences with family members and loved ones that's unfortunately lived with the disease and then obviously passed away with this disease. So it's always been something that's been close to my heart. And I think it's not often a person can say that you are passionate about your job, which is what I am definitely. So it's always been interesting for me to see how the brain works, and especially with dementia, which is such I think a big, phenomenal way to see how the brain actually works, and how it can actually disable you completely, but still have you walking around like a normal person. So I'm very passionate about the people living with the disease, and then also the people that are caring for those people, because we often forget about them. And I think that's where the more I got into it, the more I've just become more and more passionate about it.
Yeah, I mean, like we mentioned earlier on, people living with dementia, they need lots of care, they need lots of help. And those that are in the front line assisting them requires lots of love and lots of patience. They have to have those qualities in order for them to be able to help. So do you find those qualities within your organization?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, we've got wonderful people. I think it's a difficult industry to find the right people, because it's a 24/7 job. So you've got to be a very patient person, and you've got to also be quite determined to get through your day, because it's not like any other day. It's not a corporate work day where you get to work at 8 and leave at 5, and you're able to sort of switch off. It's 24/7, so you are faced with many different unpredictable issues on a daily basis with the people living with the disease. So you kind of kept on your toes, and we found wonderful people that are just also there for the cause. It's not only a job for them; it's a passion. So we're very, very blessed with the people that we work with, because they are effectively proxy family for the people living with dementia in our estate.
Yeah. Well, so tell us that you guys that are with these patients, tell us how, what are the signs, what does this disease really do to you? Because many of us, we've never probably had someone with dementia and only hear about it, so you guys that are in the front line, how is that experience?
Well, I think the first thing to clarify, I think a lot of people understand dementia being separate from Alzheimer's, or people obviously will say they've got Alzheimer's, not dementia, but actually that's where the misunderstanding comes in. First of all, dementia is an umbrella term for all different types of dementia. And Alzheimer's is a type of dementia, just as we've got vascular dementia, which is a type of dementia. dementia. We've got frontotemporal dementia and so on. There's actually over 400 types of dementia currently that they have. Yeah, so, obviously the first thing that comes to mind when you think of dementia and Alzheimer's is forgetfulness. And then a lot of people, when they start forgetting, they immediately think, oh my goodness, I'm probably going to be stuck with this disease. But it's a debilitating forgetfulness. In other words, it's not necessarily I forget where I put my keys, it's I forget how to do my daily tasks that I've been doing for my whole life. So that could be forgetting even how to make a cup of coffee, how to switch on the kettle, what comes in the mug, how do I pour the water in. It's these types of things. For example, you've been driving your car for over 50 years and suddenly you have no idea how to switch it on, where the keys go into the ignition. So that is one of the biggest concerns. That is where you start wondering, okay, maybe there's something that's not right. And then a lot of other factors come in depending on the type of dementia. It's, there's no planning. They're not able to plan or understand. Eventually they're not able to vocalize anymore. So the communication with them is a different way. I always say that people living with dementia, you no longer speak to their brains, you speak to their hearts. That is where it's almost transferred into their hearts understanding you. So they're not able to talk to you, but you are able to communicate with them on other levels, which is amazing, but also very sad at the same time. I think, eventually they have problems with spatial understanding. They can walk into things. They may become a full risk. They, they get aggravated. I mean, anybody would get aggressive if you suddenly don't know how to make a cup of tea anymore, because you know somewhere in your brain you used to do it, but now suddenly you don't know how you do it and how it's going to work. So there's various things to look at depending on the type of dementia. If you've got, for example, frontotemporal, or also experience hallucinations, which is really, really bad for them. And it also, it makes them anxious, and that's, not the best thing to have.
Yeah, no, thanks for that, Shawn, because I know, you know, hallucinating is also one of the signs. But we're going to take a short break quickly, Shawn. When we come back, we'll go a little bit more into details as to what your organization is doing to help these people. So, yeah, I urge you, for those that's watching at home, to also stay tuned. We'll be back after this. All right, guys, welcome back. You're still watching Open Studio right here on Cape Town TV. My name is Danny Campbell. I've got Shawn with me in studio, who is from an organization called Live-well Dementia. All right, they're here to speak to us a little bit more about what the organization do to help, people with dementia, and also create awareness of what this disease can really do to you, and also, the amount of help and love these people or these patients need in order for them to live a fruitful and fulfilling life. So, Shawn, once again, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. So, just to continue with our conversation, Live-well Dementia is the organization of way in which you are from. So just tell us, how long has this organization been in existence, and what are you doing, to assist these patients?
Okay, so first of all, we've been in existence since 2012 in our Somerset West estate. We started with our Bryanston estate in Joburg about 4 years ago. So what we actually do is we're a specialized dementia care facility. So in other words, we only admit individuals that are living with dementia, any type of dementia, because we specialize in caring for people that live with this disease. So we've got various types of residents that have from any, the most common types would be the Alzheimer's and your vascular dementias and so forth. So what we're trying to do is we've got one of our best aspects or elements within the company is that we do quality of life. Now, what that means, and obviously quality of life, that for any of us means that we want a good quality of life. So for me, I would like to be healthy and have a nice home and be happy with whatever. But for them, it's a different. You have to look at it in a different context, because what is quality of life for someone living with dementia? So we had to break it down and really look at what it is that we want to do. So first of all, one of the biggest things that we do not do is we do not over medicate. So we stay away from antipsychotic drugs unless a doctor is adamant that it needs to be used.
Yeah.
Other than that, the residents are on their normal chronic medication and whatever's been prescribed. But we believe in activities. So we believe in having our residents participate in either a group or individual activity that stimulates them and assists them in actually getting through the day a little bit better, than rather just sitting in a corner being over medicated, because that is what we don't do. So we categorize our residents in terms of their ability from a cognitive perspective, depending on how much they've declined with the illness. And from there, we then custom make our activities to fit with the actual category. So we would typically have hand massaging and just playing a little bit with clay, or a little bit of gardening for the people that are lower functioning. And then we would try with people higher functioning to have them have almost a normal life, like have a bit of social interaction. Obviously not with COVID now, we're allowed to do that, but we still try and make it as interesting and as wonderful as possible, and we try and custom make it according to what they actually can achieve from what we've seen cognitively.
Yeah. Wow. So, Shawn, when you work with the patients, they are in a process of forgetting things, forgetting how to do things, and when you have these activities with them, do you think they are able to learn skills, or is that part of their brain also not functioning?
Well, it depends. So look, the dementia in itself, or Alzheimer's especially, is basically, and if I just break it down into layman's terms, is the brain is shrinking. So we call it brain atrophy. So what happens is, you've got your brain cells, and then you've got the little messaging. I always call them lightning rods, where the one brain cell sends to the other brain cell, for example, you need to eat now. So what happens is, the brain cell itself is actually enveloped in a protein that it shouldn't be when you've got Alzheimer's, and it shrinks the brain cell. So now these brain cells are further from each other, so those little lightning bolts do not get to each other to actually give the message through. So at the end of the day, these people then forget even to eat. They forget to stay hydrated. So with the activities we do see, sometimes they would learn a new skill, sometimes they would not. It depends. There's a lot of people that say it, a lot of people have said it, so I'm I'm not verbatim on this, but if you've met one person with dementia, you've met one person with dementia, because they all differ so vastly in terms of their personalities, what they like and what they dislike. So we find that some of the activities, we just try and stimulate them and have them keep busy, and other times they amaze us by doing something that they previously couldn't do. So we have wonderful stories. It's not always. It's sometimes we've had a resident that's, when she came to us, she couldn't walk, she couldn't talk, she couldn't do anything. And we've got her to a point where she's actually walking on her own with assistance, but walking and communicating much better with us now. So, it really depends on what type of care you provide to the person, because that helps them to really get through their disease. So this is why I always say that if you put your loved one, or you look after them the right way, they will give back to you the same that you give to them, because they pick up exactly what you feel and what you do. If you over medicate someone like that, you leave them in a catatonic state, and they just sit and slowly die, which is such a sad thing. So we try and really just achieve, I suppose, the unachievable by teaching people that are forgetting things, new things, and they might remember today and they'll forget tomorrow. But that for us is an achievement all on its own.
Yeah. Wow, thank you so much for that, Shawn. We are going to take another break now, but when we come back, we're going to go a bit deeper into, the healthcare professionals. How, do they find it to help them, and, and the support they are getting from your organization so that they also remain sane while helping these patients. So thank you so much for that. And for those that's watching at home, I urge you to not go anywhere. We'll be back after this, so stay tuned. Hi all, welcome back. You are watching Open Studio right here on Cape Town TV. My name is Danny Campbell. I've got Shawn with me in studio today, who's from Live-well Dementia organization, and they work and treat people with dementia and helping them live a comfortable, fruitful, and fulfilling life like we will all want. So Shawn, thank you once again for coming to the show and chatting with us, really giving us insight as to what is really going on with people with dementia. And one thing that you mentioned is that if you have met somebody with dementia, one person with dementia, you've met one person with dementia because they're all so different. Yeah, so, with that, I just wanted to ask you, how do you treat these different personalities? And, you've got caregivers that's also caring for them. How do they respond to these different mood swings, to these different characters, How do you deal with that?
Well, first of all, with a lot of patience, but we train our caregivers specifically that are working in our estates on monthly basis on any new developments regarding dementia. So we try and give them as much and empower them as much to understand what to do. So it's not a normal a caregiver position. So if you take someone that's perhaps caring for an elderly person in an old age home, it will be very different because that person is still very independent and able to do a lot of things for themselves. Whereas the caregiver for someone living with dementia is a whole different story. So you could be screamed at, you could be, someone could give you a clap, they could kick you, they could bite you. It could go the other way around where they completely ignore you or don't want to speak to you. So you've got to have patience, determination, but also you've got to understand that it's never personal. It's the person living with dementia is not doing it on purpose. It's not because they don't like you or that they personally attacking you. It's just that's what's happening in their brain. So they are living in a whole different world than we are. So for a caregiver, it takes a lot, and we try and train our caregivers to understand what dementia means, how to cope with someone that becomes aggressive, how to cope with someone that becomes lethargic, how do you cope with someone that's completely out of it and just walking around. So it's a lot of patience and a lot of education. That's the two most important things when you care for someone living with dementia.
Yeah. Wow. And I mean, patience, and that's all you need. You need lots and lots of patience when caring for these patients. So, within your organization, how big is the group right now?
Our group.
Yeah.
So at the moment, we've got about 68 residents in our Somerset West estate and about 21 residents in our Bryanston estate. Yeah, so we're almost at capacity at the moment, but because of COVID, obviously there's a lot of things that I mean, I suppose all the organizations has experienced with, you know, uh, we didn't know what, everybody was on the same page, starting a new beginning at, the whole world was really thrown off guard. So I think, but we're carrying on stronger now than ever before because of the fact that people have realized that sometimes it's just not you're not able to care for someone at home living with this disease as much as you think you can.
Yeah. Wow. So, this already on its own is a huge challenge. But then we've had, and we are currently still within the pandemic. How have you guys been able to cope, with dealing with COVID-19, keeping the patient safe, your staff safe? How has that experience been like for you?
It was hectic to say the least, but I think that I can say with absolute pride that our both our estates pulled through perfectly we have residents that are in their 90s, and Somerset West Estate pulled through without any. We had two residents with COVID, and they pulled through. They pulled through. But then we really almost locked down. We actually locked down a week before the president announced that we are going to lock down as a country. So we were proactive in that sense, that we locked down the week before. We've got very strict protocols currently. Entrance and exit to the facility. Obviously, unfortunately, the visitations was very limited, which is not an ideal situation for someone living with dementia, because they don't understand why their family's not visiting them. So this was a challenge we were facing, but we actually tried in that respect to do a lot of video calls, a lot of Skype calls with the families, to try and get them to at least just have some sort of connection and communication. And obviously we're still within the pandemic. We're not sure where it's going, but at this point in time, we have, I'm very proud of our teams, both up in Bryanston and down in Somerset West, that they've kept their cool. Some of our staff members actually lived on our premises for months without seeing their families, um, because they were just dedicated to making sure that we will get these people through, and we did. And this is, at least, I mean, we were working with the most highest risk group with the virus. So we really did well in terms of making sure that those people's lives were kept safe, and that I'm very grateful to our staff for.
Wow, wow. That's amazing. Now, going forward, if there's anybody out there, that's got this patient at home and they want to bring them, to your facility under your care, how can they do so?
Okay, so first things first, I think a person that's looking after someone living with dementia needs to understand that it's not a it's not something bad that they're doing to their loved one if they are just looking at places like us, because sometimes the caregiver really does burn out. But they can contact us on our webpage, which is www.livewell.care, and there's an inquiry tab, and if you click on that, you can fill in the form, and one of our people will get back to you and start talking to you and see where we can go and how we can assist.
Wow. Is there any other platforms, Facebook page maybe, a phone number?
Yes, we have a Facebook support group.
Okay.
So if you go on the same website, also under the inquiries, right at the bottom of the website page, there's a Facebook link to our support group. This is where caregivers, whether they are people that are working in a facility or whether they are family members looking after their loved ones with dementia, they are welcome to join the group. It's a closed group, it's a private group, and then people just sort of talk about the experiences. We're also starting in January with, if permitted, we are going to do small support groups at our facilities for people that are looking after someone that's living with dementia, where we have a counselor that's going to be facilitating that, and we'll send that. We'll probably have that on our website soon next year. From a phone number perspective, I usually give my number purely because I connect with the people and then I send them in the direction that they need to go. So I'm more than happy to do that. My cell number is 083 892 5776.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that, Shawn. Thank you for the contact information and all the information that you've given us today. We really appreciate it. And thank you for the work that you're doing, you and your crew, in trying to help people living with dementia. So, and now we've unfortunately come to the end of the show, but I mean, it doesn't end there. We can always go and search your Facebook and WhatsApp and website, to get more insight as to what's happening and how we can get help. So for those that's watching at home, thank you so much for being part of today's conversation. From myself and the Cape Town TV crew, and to you, Shawn, thank you so much once again. Goodbye till next time. Bye-bye.